In this lesson, we will explore the importance of drawing lightly at first using line art. Light, sketchy lines are important to use when first rendering a likeness of something. Second, we will find cross-contour lines within an object. These are the lines that can be drawn inside of an object to show detail that offers more information than just an outline. And then we'll add shading to the object, filling in the lights and darks along the cross contours. Let's begin with the importance of drawing lightly at first. I have a reference photo here of two apples. It's easy to get distracted by color, so to begin practicing shading, it might be easier to make your photo black and white. Looking at the black and white photo, you want to try and draw what you see. So here I have some very, very light outlines of the outsides of the apple, just the outside or the contour lines. Once you have the lines the way you want them, then you can make these lines a little bit more dark and more permanent. I have my trusty old HB pencil here, regular all-purpose pencil, and I'm just going to go over the outline, make it a little bit darker. I'm happy with this line. I think it represents the apple like I want it to, so I'm going to make my line a little more dark, a little bit more permanent. By drawing lightly at first, it is so much easier to erase if you make a mistake, and also with an impermanent line, it's easier to see where you might want to change a line or make it in a different spot. So drawing lightly is always key. Once you have that nice light line, again, just go over it for the contour or the outline. Don't worry so much about the inside just yet, because that is where cross-contour drawing comes into play. So artwork with just the contour lines is called line art sometimes. That just describes the outside of an object. What we're going to do next is add the cross-contour definition, which describes the inside of the object using lines. So again, observation is key. Have that photo or object or item in front of you that you're drawing and take a look at the inside detail and try and follow along with a line with what you see. So for instance, these apples, they are red delicious apples. They have some bumps and dips and valleys and whatnot on them, more so than a regular round apple. So to show that shape, what you would do is indicate it with a line. And this is somewhat still following the shape of the contour of the outside. However, I'm getting a little closer to the edge as I get towards the bottom. Lines that are close together appear to be further away, the basic rules of perspective. Lines that are further apart often appear to be close up. So the area of the top of the apple is wider. I am indicating that by having the lines somewhat far apart near the top, and they get closer together as they get near the bottom. I'm looking at my apple. I am looking at my drawing, trying to indicate where those dips and valleys are with line. So instead of having a strangely striped apple, I am going to go ahead and add cross contours going the other way. This is just going to further define the shape and the volume of the apple. And as I'm drawing, I'm looking at the area of the apple that appears to jut forward. I'm looking at the area that appears to recede backward into space, and I'm trying to indicate that showing form using line. By the time you're done, you have some sort of a wiry sculpture or an appearance when you're done with this drawing. I'll do the same thing for the other apple. It's at a different angle, so it's going to be slightly different. These lines will indicate the back of the apple. And you can do this with several lines that are a lot closer together. I am simplifying this to some extent and not having too many lines, but just enough so you can get the idea of the depth of the apple, the three-dimensionality of the apple. And again, going the opposite way, just to indicate where it juts out, where it goes back into space. These lines are laying down the skeleton that is going to indicate where our shadows will eventually go when we shade it in. So to begin shading, make sure you have your item, your object, your photo in front of you, And I like to start with the darkest areas first. Sometimes this is all personal preference. I like to start with the dark areas because it helps me to block in certain areas instead of looking at that vast blank whiteness. So the darkest area on the apple that I'm looking at is on the left-hand side. So what I am going to do following these cross contours is I'm going to start shading in the direction of those cross contours. I am not going to make it as dark as it appears just yet. I can always go darker. It's a lot harder to go lighter. So I'm going to just basically lay down some lines that's going to indicate where the shadows are going to lie, these dark areas. I can gradually get a little bit darker as I need to. But following these peaks and valleys, I am curving. Notice how I'm curving my lines, not going back and forth in a straight motion. You can do that, but this helps your drawings really come alive and shows that depth and it shows that volume if you follow along the cross contours. You will need to go over certain areas a few times to your likeness, but laying down that first layer of shadow is key. Helps to block things out. Makes it easier to look at too. Notice where the apple goes in a little bit in this area. These two little bumps sort of stick out so they're a little bit lighter. So I'm going to make the inside of that valley a little bit darker. Again, back and forth motion, just filling it in. It's going to look very different than this when I'm done, but this is just the initial lay down of tone. As I move towards the right side of the apple, it's getting lighter. There's a real highlight on that apple too that's almost white, if you notice in the photo. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. I can always erase a nice little highlight later. I'm going to go right over that. So from left to right, the apple's a little bit darker on the left and gradually gets a little bit lighter on the right. Just filling all that in. Now I can go back and add more darkness. And I can change my direction if I want to and follow the other side, get a little bit darker. Again, following those cross contours is what is going to make this apple appear like you can reach out and grab it. Observation is key. Stop what you're doing every once in a while and step back from your work. Take a look at your apple, take a look at the photo, see if your tones are matching up. If you're hovering over your artwork constantly, you can't really get a good idea of what it looks like. Artwork was meant to be viewed from a distance. So do yourself a favor, step back and take a look at what you're doing from at least a good 2 or 3 feet so you can get an idea of how it's supposed to look. So I've laid down my second layer of tones. I'm going to go just darker where it appears darker, light where it appears light. And I am using the same pencil, just using different pressure. Right now I have a 6B, which is a nice middle grade, soft, smudgy pencil for shading. And I'm going to go over one more pass. This isn't quite dark enough for me, so I'm going to go ahead and make that really dark as I work my way out. Notice the darkness does not touch the very left side of the apple. This is a little sliver called reflected light. There is a light source coming to this apple, which sort of bounces and wraps around a little bit to the other side, so I'm leaving a little bit of lightness there before the extreme darkness happens. And again, following my cross contours. And you can keep reworking this and adding to it and taking it away things from it that you think work or don't work. But just keep looking at that photo or your object, because that's where the answers are. Draw what you see. You know in your mind what an apple looks like, but sometimes your mind tries to fill in the blanks and make things up. Draw what you see. If you try to make things up, it doesn't come out quite as right as drawing what you see when it comes to shading from real life. Drawing fantasy and taking things into your own hands as far as creating things that aren't from life, that's a different story. But drawing from life, especially learning how to shade at first, draw what you see, because it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to just keep adding some dark tones, laying down tones where I think that they should go while observing my photo for a few minutes, and then we'll check it out. I'm pretty much happy with how that is looking, but there are some areas on my apple that are a lot lighter than what I've indicated with my pencil. I've gone over that area with my pencil and needs to be lightened up a bit. So that's when my trusty kneaded eraser comes in handy. So what I'm going to do is just, you can shape this up. The great thing about this eraser is you can definitely change the shape of it if you need to. And I'm going to dab very lightly at the areas that I think need to be a little bit lighter. The highlights on the apple that I see are a lot lighter, so I'm going to dab in those areas. As you can see, that pigment just comes right up, gives you a nice contrast. There's a little bit here, there's a little bit on the rim of the apple. So just by dabbing, you're taking up some of that tone and creating nice range from light to dark. So if you accidentally go over a certain area, make it a little too dark, don't worry, because you have your trusted kneaded eraser. And you can do this all day if you want. I am going to stop right there because